so disheartening, the examples that you've given, Eric. It makes the populace lose a lot of faith in our government, and that's an understatement. Unfortunately, what this leads to, when we recognize the examples that you just gave, the two-tier different justice systems that apply according to politics, it makes the good guy think, what's the use in being a good guy? We're going to be punished. We're picked on, is what we are under the system.
The so-called good guys that former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin is referring to are the January 6th rioters, the heads of various right-wing militias who have been convicted and sentenced due to their involvement in the January 6th Capitol riots. So apparently, Sarah Palin, big fan of rioters, big fan of individuals who want to prevent the federal government from certifying the election, essentially allowing for these right-wing gangs to go against the will of the American people after a presidential election and essentially attempt to overturn it through violence and through, again, rioting. That is who she's referring to. Those are the so-called good guys. And she made that statement in response to host Eric Bolling, who looks weirder and weirder every year, I gotta keep it real with you, claiming that the lengthy sentences against Joe Biggs, members of the Oath Keepers, members of the Proud Boys, just too long, it's unfair. So let's just see how good these so-called good guys were. Let's begin with Proud Boy Dominic Pizzola, who was sentenced to 10 years in prison for his role on January 6th.
Proud Boy Dominic Pizzola was convicted of 6 felonies for his actions that day, along with several other members of the far-right quasi-militia group. On January 6th, Pizzola was the first person to breach the Capitol building, smashing open a window with a riot shield he'd stolen from an officer. Inside the building, Pizzola led a group of rioters through the halls where they came within sight of Senator Chuck Grassley, then third in line to the presidency, as he was evacuated from the Senate chamber. Pizzola also filmed himself in the Capitol, smoking what he called a victory cigar, though that didn't really turn out.
Victory cigar, fascinating. Now he was sentenced to 10 years. Prosecutors asked for 20 years. But the video evidence that you all watched was just demonstrations of Pizzola being a good guy, according to Sarah Palin. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I have a lot more to get to. But Francesca, curious what you think.
I mean, just in terms of Sarah Palin, again, yes, how is she still relevant? Why are we still asking her what she thinks? But also never fails to incite violence. The one thing about Palin is she's always gonna be there, whether it's putting targets on various lawmakers' offices back in the day, which did lead to a shooting of Gabby Giffords. You can always rely on her. Oh yeah, and the death of a little girl, we forget about her. We can always rely on her to put a target on people's backs. So she was basically like, what's the point of being a good guy? I'm gonna stop being a good guy, which again is a little, just a little conch shell blow to all of the people who maybe weren't there on January 6th or maybe escaped consequences from January 6th to keep on doing January 6s. And the funniest part about that is she's like, people are gonna really lose their faith in the government. Anna, don't you think that the people who stormed the Capitol, I wonder what their view of government is. How does that rank on the things they respect?
Obviously, so much trust, right. So much trust, Francesca. So much trust. We're ruining it. We're ruining it.
Exactly. They had a lot of respect for it before, but I don't know now. They're not gonna respect government. I mean, it's wild, and it is also interesting that 10 years versus 20 is a huge difference. And lastly, I keep on, every time I see footage of this day, every time I think about it if it were me in the day protesting, the World Economic Forum, protesting greedy capitalists, protesting the war in Iraq, protesting the war in Afghanistan, protesting for Palestinian human rights, protesting for a Green New Deal, all things, we'd be dead, okay? Dead, all right? You think Ashley Babbitt was one person? That's one person. There would be so many bodies on the ground were those folks not Donald Trump's handpicked stooges and their various militias.
So let's get to the other individuals who were convicted and were handed down lengthy sentences. There was Proud Boy Zachary Rel, who was sentenced to 15 years in prison, which was half of what prosecutors asked for. He was convicted of leading the mob to the Capitol on January 6th. And he was also the Proud Boys Philly chapter president. Now, as Rel testified in his own defense, prosecutors confronted him with newly surfaced body camera footage that appeared to show him pepper spraying police. Oh, good guy, right? Good guy. Now, Francesca, if a left-wing protester pepper sprayed police, what do you think the commentary would be from conservative media outlets? Would it be fair commentary about how we should be lenient with that individual?
The two-tier justice system. Yeah, and this country does have a history. I mean, let's be real though. I don't believe in simply using the carceral system, simply doing that in this case. Like, I do think people have to face consequences, absolutely. But do I believe in infiltrating right-wing groups in order to entrap them into schemes and then arrest them? No, that's what they do against the left. That's what they do against the Muslim community in this country. I don't believe that we should strengthen those kinds of things. But I mean, this country does have a history of going after people for their political views. But 9 times out of 10, they're not people who believe in like fascism and white supremacy. They're people who, believe we should stop digging up fossil fuels and killing the planet. They're called eco-terrorists if you haven't been following, right? Like people who believe in social justice. And so it's just so funny. It's like, oh, it's come for you. Has it come for you?
But look, look, they committed serious crimes, right? It's not simply like, oh, they're making corporations mad and like their protest is inconvenient. No, this isn't, like, I remember when there was the trucker protest against COVID mandates. It started in Canada and then we had our own version of that here in the United States. I think they have the right to do what they did, right? But as soon as they start engaging in violence, as soon as they start breaking into government buildings or causing that kind of trouble, as soon as they start like pepper spraying police officers, well, they're breaking some serious laws and they should suffer consequences for that. So I agree with you. Entrapping people to essentially punish them for their ideological views, I'm 100% against, whether we're talking about left-wing ideology or right-wing ideology. In this case, there's so much overwhelming evidence against these individuals, and they were. All
they
of the
themselves,
accurate
Anna.
information.
They filmed themselves. They were live streaming their work.
Homeboy smoking a celebratory cigar. Like, come on, man. Come on, man. All right, but let's get back to Rel. So again, he was sentenced to 15 years, half of what prosecutors requested. As I mentioned, he was caught on video pepper spraying police. In the days before, he endorsed firing squads for the traitors that are trying to steal the election. That's a direct quote that he posted on social media. And once the riot was quelled, Rel expressed regret that the mob hadn't succeeded in stopping Congress's certification vote. Looking back, it sucked, he texted other members of the Philadelphia Proud Boys chapter on January 7th. We should have held the Capitol. Everyone shoulda showed up armed and took the country back the right way. Luckily, they didn't actually carry that out, but it gives you a sense of the lack of remorse following what happened on January 6th. Proud Boy member Joe Biggs was sentenced to 17 years. Prosecutors had asked for 33, and he was convicted of a rare but very serious, charge, which is seditious conspiracy. Joe Biggs was sentenced with a terrorism enhancement due to his actions on January 6th. When he tore down a fence separating rioters from the police, the judge deemed this act a deliberate, significant action that contributed to the chaos and destruction during the incident. And then finally, I want to get to the individual who has the lengthiest sentence. It was handed down yesterday. We covered it in detail. And that's Enrique Tarrio. He was sentenced to 22 years in prison. Here's why.
Prosecutors describing Tarrio as a political terrorist who sought to use force to block the peaceful transfer of power. Tarrio was not present on January 6th after he was arrested and ordered to leave Washington, D.C. But prosecutors said he still played a key role in the planning and orchestration of the attack. This now infamous video showing Tarrio meeting with Stewart Rhodes and the other leaders of the Oath Keepers in an underground parking garage in Washington, D.C. on the eve of the riot. Rhodes now serving 18 years in prison. And prosecutors argued that it was a squad of Proud Boys who first broke through the metal barriers protecting the Capitol, saying Tarrio watched the violence unfold and at 2:38 p.m. posted on social media saying, "Don't expletive leave."
Gee, what a great guy. I mean, such a good guy who's now suffering consequences for his good guy behavior, and he might, decide that he doesn't want to be a good guy anymore.
Stop being a good guy. Stop being a good guy. I mean, I think what's crazy about that text, "Don't effing leave," and then the other text messages, "I wish we had stayed," is that we got real close, right? And we know that from also the January 6th committee hearings and the fact that Donald Trump was very close to actually going to the Capitol himself. Who knows what that would have done to the already incredibly violent crowd there? Who knows what would have happened if they had encountered and actually gotten a hold of any senators, right? So what I keep on being reminded of, I believe Representative Ruben Gallego, who said, "We cannot leave the Capitol. Like, they want us to leave, we are not leaving. If anyone asks you to get on a bus, stay in whatever bunker, shelter, whatever safe room there was, because effectively that's what will prevent a coup. The person who stays the longest is the one who wins, right?" And like, I know it's funny, it's ridiculous. We kind of want to move past it. It was traumatic, but like, we got really close to not having a peaceful transfer of power. I mean, we didn't have a peaceful transfer of power. We got real close to Donald Trump staying because his goons almost held it down for him.
Yeah, and look, I think that whatever strategy the rioters thought they were engaging in was, look, it was more of a threat in terms of violence for sure, right? Especially when you have people chanting "Hang Mike Pence," like they came for violence. But in terms of carrying out an actual coup, I want to be clear. The strategy that could have definitely worked was installing the fake electors. And had those members of Congress left before certifying the election, I think you're 1,000% right, Francesca. I think there's a good possibility that Trump's attempts to overturn the election could have succeeded. And it's not just Trump, of course, it's all the co-conspirators who hatched all these schemes to make it happen. Luckily, it didn't happen, but this is the reason why I think the consequences, not just for the rioters, but also for Trump and the co-conspirators, really matter, because it communicates to future presidents who might lose their reelection. No, we're not playing, okay? Our democracy matters, our democratic process is important, and we are gonna fight to maintain and protect that. And so that's why these consequences are important to me. And for Sarah Palin to sit there and whitewash who these people are and what they actually did, to describe them as good guys, I think is just, honestly, I shouldn't be surprised it's Sarah Palin, but it's abhorrent behavior, it's disgusting, and it's a complete revision of what actually transpired.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.